Okay, let's dive into First Chronicles chapter 10 today. We're looking specifically at the end of King Saul's reign, a really dramatic moment.
It absolutely is. In this
Mhm.
chapter, it doesn't just tell the story, it gives a pretty clear interpretation why it happened.
Right, that's key here. So the setting is Mount Gilboa, Philistines versus Israel.
And it's not going well for Israel at all. The text says they flee, many are killed right there.
A real rout. And the Philistines, they're pushing hard, focusing on Saul and his sons.
Yeah, Jonathan, Abinadab, Malchishua, they fall in the battle. It really zeroes in on the royal family.
It gets very grim very fast for Saul himself. He's
Sure.
he's hit by archers, badly wounded.
And then there's that really intense moment. Saul knows capture is likely worse, so he turns to his armor bearer.
Tells him, "Draw your sword, run me through, basically end it now."
But the armor bearer, he's just terrified. He can't do it. Utterly refuses.
So Saul, he takes matters into his own hands, takes his own sword.
And falls on it. Ends his own life.
Yeah. And then almost like an echo.
The armor bearer sees Saul is dead, and he does the exact same thing. Falls on his own sword.
It's brutal, and the text underlines it, saying, all his house died together.
It really emphasizes the finality, the end of that line, right there on the battlefield.
Such a complete end. So after this disaster on the mountain, what's the immediate impact?
Well, the Israelites down in the valleys, when they see the armies defeated and the king is dead, they panic.
They just leave,
They abandon their towns. And the Philistines, they just walk in and take over.
consolidating the victory. Okay, and then the next day, the Philistines go back up the mountain.
Right. To strip the dead. Standard practice, maybe, but then they find Saul and his sons.
And they don't just leave it there.
No, this becomes a trophy moment. They strip Saul, take his head, take his armor.
And then they publicize it.
Big time. They send messengers everywhere, proclaiming the victory, to their idols, to their people. They put his armor in the temple of their gods, sort of a thank offering, maybe. And they hang his head in the temple of Dagon.
Wow. That's maximum humiliation.
Yep.
A religious statement as much as military.
Definitely. But then there's a counterpoint. The people of Jabesh Gilead.
Ah, yes. They hear about this desecration.
They do. And it's described as all their valiant men. They undertake this risky mission
To get the bodies.
to retrieve Saul and his sons' bodies from, presumably, wherever the Philistines had displayed them, maybe Bethshan, which is mentioned in Samuel's account.
That took courage.
Absolutely. They bring them back to Jabesh. They bury their bones under the great tree there. It's an act of respect, of loyalty.
And they fast for 7 days. A real act of mourning and honor.
It's a stark contrast to the Philistine actions. But then after laying all this out, the chronicler pivots.
Right, this is where the text gives its reason. It doesn't just report, it explains.
Bro,
So why? According to First Chronicles, why did Saul die like this?
it's incredibly direct. The text just states it. Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. Plain and simple.
Unfaithful. Okay, how does it define that? What did he do?
Two things are specifically mentioned right here. First, he did not keep the word of the Lord. Disobedience.
Okay.
And second, perhaps the clincher for this writer. He even consulted a medium for guidance and did not inquire of the Lord.
So seeking guidance from a forbidden source instead of from God.
Exactly. The text presents these actions not just as mistakes, but as fundamental breaches of faith.
And the consequences spelled out.
Explicitly. So the Lord put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. It draws a straight line from Saul's unfaithfulness to his death and the transfer of power.
It's striking how this account presents such a clear theological cause and effect. What does that tell you about this particular source's perspective?
Well, it shows a worldview where leadership, success, even life and death are directly tied to obedience and faithfulness to God. It's less about military tactics or political maneuvering, though those happened, and more about the leader's relationship with the divine. That's presented as the ultimate factor.
A very clear message about accountability.
Yes. This narrative really wants you to understand events through that specific lens. Faithfulness determines destiny.
So this deep dive leaves us with a pretty potent idea from the text itself. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How do the stories we tell, the histories we read, shape our own understanding of why things happen? What do those narratives tell us really leads to success or failure? Something to think about.